Hey, welcome to Dollar Views. I'm Brian Gillis.
And I'm Stephen Maltmanex.
We're just two Long Beach State film grads with a lifelong passion for cinema, trying to put our money where our mouths are.
And we decided to make our BAs mean something by giving our 2 cents on the weekly film releases.
Whether it's the cute romantic comedy,
Or the latest cult classics,
from the little-known indies and docs,
to the latest Michael Bay masterpiece.
we go over it all, $1 at a time.
Oh my God, Teddy, look at this. It says if we want to have a baby, you're going to have to prove you're a person in a court of law.
This is a nightmare.
We gotta fight it. We'll get a lawyer, and we'll sue the government for your civil rights.
I'm Samantha Jackson. You must be Ted.
Yeah, Samantha Jackson. What's your middle name?
Leslie.
Oh my God, you're Sam L. Jackson.
That's great. I mean, just like Sam L. Jackson.
Who is that?
You ever seen any movie ever? He's the black guy.
It's interesting the time that this movie comes out, what happened at the Supreme Court, isn't it?
Very interesting. I mean, I tweeted about this.
I did see that.
I rarely do that. I rarely...
It's really weirdly perfect timing. I don't think it was
obviously wasn't
intentional,
intentional, but yeah, it was perfect timing, especially since it opens with a wedding, which is, for all intents and purposes, not standard and against the grain.
Not a heterosexual, biological, human-on-human wedding.
Yeah, which is one of those arguments, you know, like, well, if gays can marry, then you can marry your dog. Well, this is pretty up that alley. It's, well, then you can marry a stuffed animal that has talking, like, parts and a soul.
And without spoiling, obviously, the decision that comes at the end of the movie, I do think it made that point pretty well. But, okay, the actual movie, what do you think about that?
I liked it. I thought it was funnier than the first.
Really?
The first was all about Mark Wahlberg and Mila Kunis, and then Ted was like on the side. He was the laughable sidekick. He was getting all the laughs. Whereas this time it's called Ted 2, and rightfully so. It's like as in Ted TOO. It's about the bear, and it's still over the top. It's still funny. It has that McFarlane staple on it, that stamp of approval, but it has heart, which is what I liked.
You know, I agree. I think
like from beginning to end, it opens with that really left of center, really weird Fred Astaire musical number on top of a wedding cake.
Yeah, the Busby Berkeley number.
Yeah,
that is the thing about Seth MacFarlane is, you know, he loves old Hollywood. Like even
definitely.
This is even, I don't know if you saw A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Not yet.
But there's a really nice opening title sequence that's an homage to old westerns, you know, especially John Ford. But I guess, you know, talking about this, I guess I got to talk about what I think about Seth MacFarlane in general. I enjoy his humor, you know, when I'm in the mood for it. Usually it only plays on me once. Like, you know, I can't really rewatch episodes of Family Guy and laugh all the time. I only laugh the first time, and then once I've seen the joke, that's it. So I didn't go back and rewatch Ted. I didn't rewatch A Million Ways to Die in the West. But, you know, for those first two, I did find them funny, even though their plots, they're very conventional, they're very cliche. You know exactly the direction that they're going in. But, you know, it's at least a focused narrative. Here, there are a lot of really good gags in here. It's still funny in general, but it feels like kind of like, did you ever see Stewie Griffin, the old Untold Story?
Yeah, with the Time Machine.
Yeah, they released that on DVD first, and then I guess they just threw it as like 3 episodes separately at the end of the season.
Yeah, I saw it on DVD.
And it felt kind of like that to me, where it's just 3 different plot lines that are connected, or well, actually 2 now that I think about it, and then they're just stitched together. It's Ted trying to have a baby, and then Ted versus the people.
Yeah, but I mean, they do make the connection fairly well.
Then, yeah. I mean, it's basically that's what the plot is, and then there's these random gags that happen, and the plot, while in the end, especially with all that's been happening lately, it's very relevant. I didn't find the plot interesting at all. I really didn't care what was going to happen. But, you know, I did find some gags funny, whereas, you know, with the first Ted, like, even though it was going in a very cliche direction, you know, I was much more invested in what was going on, and I was laughing at the same time. So I do feel like this does kind of suffer through that, you know, what generally happens with comedy sequels, and that, you know, okay, it's still funny, but it really doesn't go in any directions that really demand a sequel to be made, and it just kind of feels, you know, pointless in the end, to me, anyway.
Maybe so, but then again, the first one was pretty pointless. How necessary is a film about your teddy bear becoming a person? Like, that's kind of weird.
Oh, I think that's part of the appeal of it, though, especially at that time, because I mean, first off, you know, Ted is, whatever you think of it, it's a great-looking CGI effect.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a teddy bear.
And that is part of that Seth MacFarlane's staple of humor is, okay, Family Guy, you have the pet dog that can talk that does a bunch of stuff that dog shouldn't do. I think that's
American Dad, there's a goldfish.
Yeah, and an alien. Yeah, I mean, that is part of his humor, is taking something that is not human, and yet we interact with it in ways that's very human and, cause all this debauchery. And that does lead to some pretty good comedy. And bringing that into the live-action realm, that is the appeal of Ted.
Yeah. It's a really weird thing, too, because before I saw my film, before I saw Ted 2, I saw people coming out, and they were bringing, their 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, and I thought that was really weird, because I thought I was raised with my parents letting me watch anything. They had no reservations about rated R films. I could watch anything, but that's at home. They wouldn't take me to the theater to see something like that. And, I'm not saying this film is grotesque or anything, but some of the humor, if you're letting your kids watch that, wow.
I agree that's kind of a weird thing, but I am so desensitized.
Yeah.
The R-rated movies that I've gone to where I've seen 6-year-old kids come to their parents.
It just happens. It's weird.
It's astounded me before. And I don't even. You know what? Raise your kids however you want. I mean,
yeah,
this
definitely.
is America. That's your right to do that.
So I don't want to hear childish giggles behind me.
Well, hey, I would imagine that would actually be more fun, is hearing kids laugh and just wondering why they find it so funny, and that
maybe. I mean, that's kind of what,
because they're laughing for a different reason, because they don't understand the context of every joke.
They're laughing because it's a teddy bear doing weird things.
Exactly.
But yeah, we just mentioned this. The release, the Friday in America at least, very relevant, very poignant. But it goes past that. Just that, there's a lot of things happening in the film that if you're looking at face value, it's still saying the same message. You have, and you said it doesn't make sense, it doesn't really connect, but I would disagree. You have this teddy bear who can't have kids, so they look into adoption and sperm, donation and whatnot, and that is 100% about gay marriage, surrogacy and union problems, and then even further, the way it starts, you have Joy in the grocery store. He's talking about white niggas and whatnot, and you should know history lessons, blah 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 blah. And I was so I don't know. I thought it was really not an important film because it doesn't say anything that the average film goer doesn't already know. Mm-hmm. But if you are a racist or whatever, or a homophobe, and you're watching this film, I hope that it really raises your appreciation, maybe not appreciation, but your sensitivity levels for people that don't have the same civil liberties. It doesn't make it very obvious, because it is obviously about a talking teddy bear, but it is what it's about, and it
doesn't make the point any less relevant. But I gotta stop you right there, just because of what you said. It's not that, for me, it's not like the point doesn't resonate for me at all. That's not my issue, and I think the point works. It's just the way that the movie handles it, the way that the plotting works, because it's you're obviously, this is an allegory for gay marriage today, and there's a bunch of other stuff that you can find in the subtext, but it doesn't mix well, especially when you have funny gags in there that are just completely random, and I don't know, it feels very unfocused to me. Which I guess that is part of Seth MacFarlane's sense of humor, but here there was more of a disconnect between the jokes and the plot as it went along. It doesn't come together well for me at all, and also, especially, it doesn't help that I'm being reminded of the third act of the first film specifically, which I have not seen that since that came out, and that was 3 years ago. But it's a repeat of the same thing, and there's really. I at least felt the stakes the first time when I was watching the first Ted. Here, it really just kind of felt like they were going through the motions.
I don't know. It's hard to really critique these films.
I mean, I agree with the point that the movie is making. I wasn't really engaged with how it was presented before me. I was laughing, and I appreciate the point. It doesn't mix well.
Oh, definitely doesn't. And that's like you said, it's a sense of humor, and you got these gags. You got drug use and sex and Flash Gordon back again and all these things. But I thought it was surprising, especially, after...
Just given the point?
Not just the point, but that it's primarily about that. right now, and like that's very relevant. And you know, like say I saw this film 3 weeks from now. Say they pushed the date, probably wouldn't even cared. And it was like, oh yeah, well whatever. But just the day of, you know, like a couple hours after Supreme Court legalized gay marriage across the our great country. We're almost at the end here, so let me mention this. There's a gag in the film, Jurassic Park gag, that I thought, in the context of the film, didn't work 100%, but it floored me because I was next door to a Limax auditorium that was playing Jurassic World, and the bass was bleeding into our theater like the whole film. And as soon as the John Williams theme comes on, that irony was,
It kicked in at that
it
moment.
was perfect. It was so good. I wasn't necessarily laughing at the joke, but that the auditorium, the joke that was happening in the real world, it was so great.
Yeah, I gotta say, like I love that Jurassic Park theme on its own. Like I've always thought it's just a very beautiful piece of
And it
music.
works so good in this
And
joke.
I've never been moved by it when it's, you know, been played with the dinosaurs for some reason. I'm sorry, it just it doesn't
Yeah,
do
it's
that
up
for me.
this in the Jurassic World.
But here,
It's
I wouldn't
perfect.
say that I was moved by it, but you know it.
well, if
It got me
you were
more so than
laughing,
Jurassic Park probably did.
if you're laughing,
was, yeah.
that is movement. You know, like
Yeah.
it's not sadness, but you're being moved into laughter, and I think that's really funny. Not just about the joke, but this weekend, Jurassic World is going to be #1 again, or at least that's what the trades are reporting. And so even if this film fails, which it kind of is, I think it's got like 35 million or something like that. So going into this, even if Universal failed, and they are probably going to, because it's hard to get a hard R comedy to beat, you know, two films that were at the top of the box office. With the joke that's there, it's perfect time. It's like Universal won anyway. And that was kind of like their, you know, tap on the nose, hey, guess what? We got your money again. Like, I thought it was perfect. Like back to
That's
back.
funny, yeah. No, it definitely it was. You know, the joke itself was not that funny, but it was kind of an amusing moment, just especially given that Jurassic World just came out.
At home, you might be oblivious to the fact that this opened 2 weeks behind Jurassic World and was in theaters at the same time. And it's the same
Either way,
studio.
they're going to understand what the reference is
Yeah.
supposed to be.
Oh, you're gonna catch the reference. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
giving when it played, just like the civil rights stuff in the film, it just works so well. And maybe I feel more warm about this film than I should be because of these two things. But that's how things are when they're initially released.
I do think, you know, this is an important thing. Is I saw this. I'm guessing you saw this on what, Friday night?
Yeah, it was like Friday
The
afternoon.
the day that the Supreme Court made that decision.
Yeah, I saw it. It
So
was like
you
it was
already had that
1:15.
knowing that, and you recognized that parallel right away.
Yeah.
I saw it the day before
Oh.
that happened.
Oh,
Yeah,
but even
so,
still,
you know, I still
resonated
understood
a little later.
Yeah, I still understood the allegory, but I did not have those events specifically
Yeah.
to connect with me in that way when I saw it.
That's what I'm saying. Anyone this weekend, if you saw it Friday, Saturday, or you've seen it today,
You saw Ted 2 in a post-gay marriage world.
exactly. And because of that,
I did not.
I don't know. It just, like I said on Twitter, like it's poignant. Like it means something now.
Yeah, it absolutely.
And if it had been released 2 weeks earlier or a week earlier, it wouldn't have mattered. So I think that's why we have a dissenting opinion, to use some.
Well, no, I
court
think, you know, I
terminology here.
think it's. Although my criticisms for the movie, it's not really. I don't even dislike the movie. I think the movie's okay. It's just, I just look at it as a comedy sequel. It has a good allegory in there,
Mm-hmm.
and it absolutely works. And you know, it's great that it came out at this time specifically, but I did not. I just kind of felt like, you know, whatever when I walked out, because it's got to be a comedy first, and that's what I'm going to remember when I get out of there. You know.
Yeah.
So as a comedy, though, yeah, you know, it works. There's some good gags over there. I saw it with a good crowd. For some reason, though, there was this one obnoxious guy who I had to be sitting next to, and he was the only guy laughing every time that the words "fresh cakes" came up. The only person laughing at that joke.
Yeah, well,
and
that- was
in a
that
full
even-
theater was just laughing right next to me. So that probably
I wouldn't even call that a joke. That
but
was
yeah, he
just
was laughing
like,
so hard. So, you know, having the most obnoxious person in the theater sitting right next to you in a full theater,
Yeah.
that might bring down my experience.
Yeah,
a
it's
little
like
bit.
my Tomorrowland experience.
Yeah, but in closing, you know, I think it's a funny movie. If you're in for a good time with a good crowd, then by all means check it out. I did laugh, but I just kind of feel like, oh, I guess that was it at the end. I'm going to forget about this movie next week.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like I said, I had a good time. I thought it was poignant, and seeing it, given the circumstances, like I've said twice already, definitely brought more to the theater. But yeah, Seth MacFarlane, it's forgettable. It's funny in the moment. It didn't make much money this weekend. It's going to make even less next weekend.
Hey, it's still doing well though. $33 million for an
It's
R-rated
good for
movie.
a
That's
hard R.
Yeah, that's a good. That's good for Ted.
Those are Entourage
Yeah.
numbers. So
It's just it's just more change for Universal. They're having a great year.
they're having a great year.
They're having an amazing year.
Yeah. Wouldn't buy this for $1. It's a good time. It was fun, but it's gonna work just as well at home.
Hey, when it's playing on TV, it'll work just as well as watching a Family Guy episode when you're bored.
Well, thanks for listening, guys. I hope it's been a pleasure. If you enjoyed it, you can find us online. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis. That's BryonGillis. And also on this lovely site called Letterboxd, where I rate my films that I watch on an almost daily basis, my personal film diary, and I also write the occasional review.
You can find me on Twitter as well at S_MTX. And I'm also on Letterboxd. My username there is S_MTX. There I log everything I watch and sometimes write brief reviews.
You can find updates and when our podcasts go live on Twitter at Dollar Reviews. And if you'd like to send us some hate mail, if you loved what we said, you'd like to contribute some talking points, or you just like to laugh at us, you can send us an email at dollar.review@gmail.com.
And since we don't know where you're listening from, you can find our recent reviews on iTunes just by searching Dollar Reviews. We're also on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/dollarreviews. And if you're sad that you missed a review and you can't find it on either of those platforms, our entire archive is available at youtube.com/dollarreview. Once again, that's Dollar Review. One word, no S.
Until next time, keep the change.